I'm Serum, and I am on Kerbal Space Program. If you remember our interplanetary ship 1, it has unfortunately fallen to demise. Apparently, the ship, while it was in orbit, had the orbit had degraded while I was busy doing other things, and it must have crashed into Duna. But that's okay because the Kerbins are actually working on the Interplanetary Ship 2 at the time of this discovery. So, as you can see, I've already actually launched the second and final stage to this ship. The first stage I didn't record, it was kind of boring and just putting it into orbit. This is the second stage, along with its two landers. And we are slowly approaching the first stage, which were the engines, very similar to the Interplanetary One setup. The only difference is this is a much, I think, more aesthetically pleasing looking ship, whatever that means. It looks a lot nicer, and it's much more stable than the Interplanetary Ship 1. The Kerbins have learned a lot from their first attempt at an interplanetary ship and have designed things a little bit differently to be more functional. So here we go. We're bringing it as close as we can get. And just basically at this point, I'm just working on trying to get caught up to the engines. Now, the unfortunate thing with the loss of our interplanetary ship 1 was that Jebediah Kerbin was on board, and unfortunately, he is gone. He was the commander rescued from the moon. You'll remember him from earlier episodes as the first Kerbin to do a orbit around the planet, as well as he was one of the first crewmen to land on the moon. Unfortunately, they didn't return. He had to be rescued by Interplanetary Ship 1. And he then became the commander of the ship, which was the first ship to ever get to Duna. So he was very well recognized by the Kerbins, and unfortunately he is gone. So we are building this second ship in honor of him. So here it is. It's the docking. Right now I'm releasing the engine that was bringing it up. I don't need that anymore. And I'm using the large docking clamps, which will now be used to dock onto the engine stage. I've put a lot more struts and stuff on this to make it stronger and sturdier. Now, the two ships won't sit like that. They were just brought up this way. I'll disconnect them and then connect them onto that docking clamp that's on the side there. But for now, it was just the easiest way to bring them up. Another thing I've changed is the command module can be separated and flown to a planet if need be, or at least they can survive in a lifeboat until they can be rescued. And it can be docked with too if you have a large docking clamp on that. So unfortunately, like I always manage to do, especially with these big things, I put the RCS in horrible spots on this, so it's really hard to control, and I'm having a hard time. I'm fighting it like crazy. It's drifting everywhere, and I'm got RCS ports spraying stuff out in every direction. I gotta learn how to do this better, but I'm able to get it in, and unfortunately my game crashed, and when I started playing again, I forgot to turn on the recording, so you never actually see this stage dock, because I'm an idiot and I forgot. But it took me about 20 tries to get this. I just kept playing and trying again, but I did dock. And then the landers were detached. I had to bring a guy down because I forgot to also put a unmanned attachment on this to fly him, because that's originally what I had planned to do, but I forgot about that. So I had to actually bring a pilot down to fly this thing. And again, I misplaced the RCS ports on this thing, so I have to kind of turn it to direct it the way I want to go. I'm next time going to practice on making that a little bit better. Now these landers have these landers have docking ports on the side as well as on the top, but the side one is what I'm using. You can kind of see it there, and I'm going to dock it onto the side of the ship. And I want them to be attached sideways to the ship so that it makes it a little bit more stable when we're flying. You know, kind of keeping that center of mass in towards the center more. So I'm just kind of bringing this in. And this one went relatively smoothly. And I wanted them to face so that the nose is facing up towards the front of the ship. And this one went on perfectly. As you'll see, though, I had a little bit tougher time with the other one. And it also, I had to cut it down quite a bit because it took me a while to get that other one attached onto the ship. Now it's just struggling there. I turn off the RC, or the, yeah. I can't think today, sorry. But anyway, it took a little bit, it danced around, but it did lock on finally. And so now I'm going to get my little guy out of there, and he's going to do a spacewalk to the other side and hop into the other one. And you'll see that one because I actually recorded it. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. That was my wife coming home with food, so I had to stop to eat. But anyway, so yeah, we're separating this one now. And like I said, it took a lot longer. This one was tough because like it's just I gotta figure out what I'm doing with those RCS ports. I always think I put them on the way I want them to be, but then they're not correctly positioned, and I think I'm trying to over complicate it. So basically, yeah, I'm just gonna have to mess around and play around with some designs and see what works best and try to stick to that. So I've launched that off. I love these things when you detach them, they like shoot off and it's going to hit the ship. Luckily it doesn't do any damage, but it does knock the ship around and it starts to slowly spin on me, which makes it tougher. And I ended up having to switch back at one point to the ship and stabilize it again because it was drifting around on me while I was trying to dock with it. So now I'm just moving it in. Everything's looking good. It's going slowly. Yeah, yep, and it connects up, but unfortunately, see how it's angled like this? I try to save it, but it's crooked, and I don't like that, so yeah, I'm kind of looking at it, it's like, nah, I want it to be more parallel to the rest of the ship. So I decided to decouple it and try to do this all again. So it's released, and then the headache begins all over again. And I've cut most of that out for you to save you the agony of it. And I'm just kind of struggling here. This is like my 20th attempt to get it in there. But it goes in. Takes a little bit. It locks in, but unfortunately it's still slightly crooked. But I decide, you know what, close enough. And so then we send our little guy back up. Instead of putting him back in a capsule, I'm just going to put him into the storage compartment there. Their sleeping quarters, as I like to call it. And he'll just hop in there and take it easy. So there it is. That would be the Interplanetary 2. I gotta start finding better names for these things. I have ideas for another ship that I want to do at some point that'll just be for getting from Kerbin to its moons, and it'll probably, I'm going to try, it's an experiment, so we'll see how it goes, but I want to just use ion drives and have lots of them, and then it'll just go to the moons and back, but I don't know, it'll be an experiment. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll see. But she's beautiful. And definitely a lot better looking than the last ship. The last ship was a prototype. This one is much better, but we'll see when we test it out. Anyway, I am Serum, and I will see you next time. Bye!